My presentation is on the Tambora volcanic eruption and its climate effects. As an overview of what I'll be going over in my presentation is I'll have a slide on the background information from the eruption, the climate effects that followed, some recent studies, a conclusion, and then my citations at the end. So in 1815, there was a catastrophic eruption that took place on Mount Tambora in Indonesia. This type of eruption came from a stratovolcano, and a stratovolcano is a very explosive type that is made up of layers of ash and lava. And stratovolcanoes are also known to be more explosive due to the buildup of gas in magma. So the death toll of this eruption was recorded to be between 80,000 and 90,000 on Tambora and the islands that are around it. And then it was also estimated to be about 35,000 homes that were destroyed from the effects and the aftermath, and 50,000 deaths throughout the world from the climate effects after the eruption. So this eruption led to the climate cooling effect that occurred between 1815 and 1816, which is known as the year without summer. It is because of the release of sulfur dioxide is what caused the cooling effect. And on the map on this slide, I have a picture of where Mount Tambora is and also all the islands that are neighboring it, and you can see just how close they are. So for all the climate effects, after the eruption, huge amounts of sulfur dioxide was ejected into the atmosphere, and the sulfur dioxide created a cloud of sulfate aerosols, which formed in the stratosphere over Indonesia and made its way over towards Europe. So the stratosphere is the layer that converts UV rays into heat. So when the cloud formed, it blocked the ability to create the heat, and it blocked all the light from going through to the troposphere, which is the layer where all weather occurs. And because of this, the global temperatures dropped and then came about the year without summer. The time between 1815 and 1816 were areas around Indonesia and in Europe where they experienced a drastically cooler summer, and farmers also were unable to grow crops, and this led to famine because of the inability to feed their communities. And then on the graph, you can see in blue, that is where all the temperature was a lot cooler, and this is during the summer of 1816. So for some recent studies that I have, the first one was done in Greenland, and it was the drilling of ice cores. The ice cores were used because when significant amounts of sulfur dioxide is emitted, the gas gets trapped in the ice and it can be analyzed. So 4 ice cores were drilled 75 to 200 meters deep, and this holds 250 to 900 years of chemical information. And then after that, the ice cores were drilled, they were analyzed to look for elevated sulfate concentrations at the time of the eruption. And it was discovered that there have been other undetected eruptions around 1815 that had released sulfur dioxide but were just not recorded. So it was not just Tambora that was releasing this gas into the atmosphere. Oh, sorry. And then the next study that I have is the recording from space, which is where sulfur dioxide emissions were recorded throughout a decade from a satellite in space. So this is between 2005 and 2015, where sulfur dioxide emissions were recorded from 10 of the most prominent volcanoes, and it was recorded by NASA's Aura satellite. And then the annual emissions were calculated, and in conclusion, there were 91 persistent sulfur dioxide sources that were recorded. And then on the graph that I have up here, the red dot shows the average sulfur dioxide being emitted at the end of 2015. And then the black line shows the mean emissions and how it changed throughout that decade. So in conclusion, events like Tambora can have very impactful effects on areas all around the world. and that research has shown smaller volcanoes are still emitting sulfur dioxide, but at a less recognizable amount and a less catastrophic amount. And although scientists think it will be many years before an eruption as big as Tambora occurs again, it is helpful to societies all around the world to know just how the climate can affect people and communities.